Surrounded by Idiots. Red Edition. Now, if you remember from previous episodes, the Red was always the big hothead, as I've described him in the last episode too. And in the book, he's described as how to recognize a real alpha and avoid getting in his way. That's basically saying that he's the boss. And since he's that boss, he can go ahead and be a little bit of a control freak too. As well as he's probably a person you probably, if you don't like conflict, would best likely avoid. If you are a green or a blue, or even primarily yellows, you probably wanted to go ahead and get away from him because he's very annoying when it comes to actually talking towards you. He's pretty sociable in his own right too, but he's terrible at things as well. Now, let's go into the notes real quick. Red is generally the kind of person where you would probably want to go ahead and stay out of. Because, first off, he's most likely a control freak. What do I mean by that? Well, if he's a control freak, so if he can control one aspect of his life, such as, hey, I'm cutting your allowance, and he doesn't get his way, well, that's just gonna go ahead and make him mad like hell. Because he's mad like hell, it can go ahead and affect his actual other's life too. In fact, in the bosses, most CEOs that at least I've read in this book are actually Reds. They're the bosses of companies. They're the ones who want to go ahead and take charge. They're the ones that say, I'm the best fit for the job. And then they list a few reasons why. However, there are a few downsides to them too. But first, before we even talk about those, I'd really like to talk about the good sides about them too. They're a little bit aggressive and they're pretty critical. So if you really want a good, honest, brutal answer from you, like if you want an honest answer, well, they'll give you a list of all the faults that they see wrong of yours, even though they're not wrong. As long as it doesn't align with his interests, it's wrong. He's the one who always thinks that he's right. He's the king, and you're just someone who's literally lower ranked than him. I mean, if Fortniters out there will probably understand it. The Reds will think that they're unreal, while they think that everyone else, except other Reds, are bronze. And Unreal is way better than bronze, no matter how many bronze players there are. Now, of course, Hippocrates, the ancient medicine guy who went ahead and studied a lot of stuff and actually did some accurate things that were pretty amazing for his time too, he called this personality type choleric, which is darn tootin' accurate if you ask me. Now, you can recognize Reds by other behavior patterns that they have, like, other than confounding you and compounding you of a bunch of things too. You can go ahead and who goes out explain something. If they go ahead and explain something, well, they're the Red. Who goes ahead and tries to do something, even if they don't, even if they didn't read the instruction manual too. Who during an otherwise pleasant dinner makes a casual comment on just like anything too, like saying, "Hey, honey, okay, I don't think I like your earrings," which is pretty offensive for the honey, I'm guessing. And with all that, those are all Reds. If they're pretty annoying and they're also asking a little too critical questions, unless they're like useful questions, then they're probably a Red. Okay, now for the bad sides. Now, the Reds themselves are great at listening when they want to. Now, when they want to, they'll open their ears loud and clear and listen to what you have to say. However, what they close their ears on is when you're trying to go ahead and blabber some small talk in too. If you say, let's say a yellow goes ahead and tries to talk to Red, well, as long as the Red will only listen as long as the yellow has anything worthwhile to speak. And yellows like to talk like a lot. And most of the time, they're just gonna go ahead and talk about small talk too. They're probably saying that, okay, so I did that, and we did this back in my day. We did this little skiing thing. However, the Red's only going to hear this little one part. The rest of the time, he's just gonna close his ears and not even listen to anything the yellow has said. And he's probably even going to show it with his body expressions too, like looking at something else and then saying, yeah, like, let's just say he asks, how's your daughter? And you just say that she's okay, and then you go ahead and explain what she's done recently, but he's not listening because he knows that your daughter's now okay, so there's no more need to actually listen towards you anymore. That's kind of, other people would probably perceive this as disrespectful too. However, when your views aren't aligned with his, or you just go ahead and mess something up, you say something wrong or in a certain way that the Red doesn't like, he's just going to give you a brutal answer, and usually in the form of hammers. like a sledgehammer that's hitting on you. But words, they're like science. Hope. They'll just shoot you with a beam of like the cyan super beam whenever they want, except they're reds, and so they go ahead and they criticize you as much as possible. And with that, that's basically where you get the reds. That's their weaknesses too. Also, the weakness is that they're pretty quick, and they seek efficiency. If they're quick, they're very efficient. However, even if it means breaking a law or two, so that means that they're also rule breakers. They go ahead throughout the rules just so that they can do something quickly. They're goal oriented, which might be a few problems too. If you have done all these things, but there's this one little thing that you did, which is like your most favorite part, but it's irrelevant, at least in the Reds' eyes, it's irrelevant, well, then you can go ahead and think of yourself as terrible too. They're pretty good decision makers too, and when they see everyone else being a little slower than them, they go ahead and criticize them, confound them with, like, I don't know, Tatumite, but words. And with all this, you can go ahead and figure out that this is a red. This is a red, not a blue. However, reds and blues can be together too. It's pretty rare to have a red-green combination, but those happen. And it's okay to have a red, blue, and yellow combination. Maybe a red, green, and yellow combination, but reds and yellows usually don't mix together that much. Now, all these reds seem to go ahead and they want control, and a lot of control they want to, and here's how you can actually easily annoy them. Number one, you go ahead and take away all his authority. Now, if he was the biggest gear there, and suddenly he's not the biggest gear there, that was gonna go ahead and stress it out so much. It's gonna go ahead and him not being involved in the decision making, that's really difficult towards him and will give him lots of stress and probably turn him a Super Saiyan. Number two, if he's your boss, then you do nothing. He's gonna get mad. Obviously. Number three, you go ahead and don't give him any kind of challenge. You just give him good, easy, simple tasks. Which brings me to number four, you go ahead and give him routine tasks, only routine tasks to do. He hates to do the same thing. Oh, Reds hate to do the same thing over and over again. And you go ahead, number five, you go ahead and you waste time doing useless things in the eyes of this red person. And you like chitter chatting. Then you're just gonna go ahead and infuriate the red. And number six, you go ahead and make a bunch of stupid mistakes. Okay, you can make mistakes. Even reds can have to admit to that, but stupid mistakes, that's just gonna make a red very mad. Like, you go ahead and you just forgot to unclick the pen, so now all the pens are useless right now. That's a stupid mistake, and reds will hate you for that. And yeah, give him no control. Like, also, that brings me to number seven. You go ahead and you give him no control over others. You say, do this, and he's all like, no, and you can't force me to do it. You're not my boss. Well, the red's gonna get mad. Number 8 or 9, you go ahead and tell him to regularly to go ahead and cool down, or you go ahead and lower his voice. You tell him, go like, hey, will you shut up, man? That will infuriate him so much. Now, how can you go ahead and help relieve this stress? How do you go ahead and, well, like, what does this red do when he's stressed, and how can you help him anyways? Well, he's just probably gonna go ahead and start being more demanding on the other colors. He's probably gonna be more mad, more Super Saiyan for whatever reason. And also on the other colors, he's probably gonna be more demanding. Like, you must do that, you must do that, you must do that in 1 minute. Or in 5 seconds. Yeah. And how can you go ahead and help reds manage their stress? You have to let them have an authority of direct control, direct order. And the answer to this is simple. You go ahead and give them something to do. Either that, or you go ahead and give them a challenge to do something. Like, make them go in the F1 race and win or something. They really love winning, and if they lose, well, that's gonna make their temper flare too. You have to go ahead and let them use up their energy in ways such as trying to win competitions or something. That's how you go ahead and turn Super Saiyan reds into, like, regular human mode reds. And how do you adapt to red behaviors? Now, if you ask reds, he'll agree that a lot of people will be a little too slow. If you find a red, try to go ahead and do his pace. Try to get everything done, like, 50% like if the like 50% prior to deadline. If your deadline is a year, do the deadline in half a year, unless it's pretty unrealistic. If your deadline's an hour, try to finish it in 30 minutes. If you have a deadline in like 10 seconds, well, do it in 10 seconds. That's nothing you can do. But if you can't do it in 5 seconds, do it. He doesn't care if it's high quality. If it's high quality, that's way better. However, all he cares about is how long it took to do it. And unfortunately, if it doesn't give you enough money, well, it doesn't give him enough money, or doesn't give him enough profit of something like effort or something valuable towards him. That's just gonna not make his day too. Do you want also speak directly towards him and also tell him something? Don't be brutally honest with him though. It's just be clear and straightforward. Determine what your essential message is and start there. Take away all the other side chit chat and only get you this little point right here, and he will only listen to that. So if you can conclude a meeting early, then do it. Conclude it early. If a meeting's scheduled for an hour, but you can finish it in 30 minutes, finish it in 30 minutes. Both of you have more free time to do it. Also, I'm pretty sure the red's going to do something not worthwhile towards. If he goes ahead and do things too, like, you don't actually know that why I'm wasting time on you, as I'm saying, I don't actually know the answer to that. This might sound like a contradiction, but the red would like you to be very determined and direct, and also he demands that he makes all the important decisions himself. He can't do all the decisions. He can't do everything himself too. He strongly dislikes to deal with facilitating people. You can't hesitate. You cannot hesitate. You have to be clear and you have to be straightforward. If you're unclear and straightforward, you're no one to this dumbhead. And the Reds seem to actually, the Reds are more likely to be the blockheads too. And they're the ones who are surrounded by the most idiots. People who are not like you. By the way, the word idiot here actually refers to people who are not like you, that you don't get along with, that you don't understand at all. Those are what Reds are like. They're the ones surrounded by the most idiots, because everyone else, most people, at least other colors, are usually pretty slow, or at least slower than they are. And if they're not as fast as he is, well, they're inefficient, they're slow bags, and yeah, they can get mad easily. However, they're also, honestly and ironically, the easiest people to sell things to. Like, you can sell a car to them without talking too much, because they don't care about the story. They don't care about the story behind the company unless it's related to the topic. They just care about, is it good? Is it affordable? Those kind of things. They don't care about the chitter chatter. They're Reds. Their whole job is just to listen to the necessary parts. That's why they make good bosses. But that's also what makes them bad listeners. They also rarely read the instructions, so yeah, make sure they read the instructions before they actually do anything, because they may do something that's completely different than what they're asked to do. And that's how you go ahead and determine Reds. And that's how you go ahead and deal with and understand Reds. So next time, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Yellows. I hope to see you guys soon. And so until next time, shout out, peace. Bye-bye. Shout out, peace.